Good morning, everyone. I love memes. The author or the artist of this cartoon said that he regrets drawing the cartoon because he didn't mean to draw Margaret Trudeau in a negative way. And I think personally, if you didn't intend to draw her in a negative way and somebody says, hey, that looks like that was drawn in a negative way, you say, oh, well, you're mistaken. My intention was not that. Like, if it's not meant to look funny, if it's not meant to be a caricature, then all right, man, just defend your drawing, I think. But anyway, it says me to we to Margaret Trudeau. And Margaret Trudeau's there with lots of bags of money. And I mean, I don't think she looks all that odd. Whatever. But memes like this show what the community, the public, the greater public is thinking. And the optics don't look good. Have you seen this? Oh, this is so cringe. This is like the biggest. It's almost painful to push play, but I'm going to push play. Okay. The arrogance in this clip. Look at this. The arrogance in this clip is unbelievable. Unbelievable. We're not going to watch near the 2 minutes and 20 seconds. He starts talking about pizza and that it takes 7 hours for delivery, but if it's, not delivered in 7 hours, it's free. Arrogance. Unbelievable. Here we go.
Welcome to Cribs East Africa Style. My name is Craig Killiger. I'm the founder of Free the Children and also of Meetawi. This is Meetawi's main volunteer camp in Kenya, and we promise you a Cribs unlike one you've ever seen before. Sankai, how you doing? Good. Maasai warrior, great friend of mine. He lives here.
The highlighting of the locals in this Cribs episode. Weird. Very strange. Yeah, and they jump forward to this is the pizza part. And there's a blood drinking part. Weird. Very, very odd. This whole thing is just...
Here, of course, but hey, if it's not here in 7 hours, it's free. Other great food all grown here locally and organic.
It's a very, very cringeworthy thing. Anyway, here is moving into all the news of the day. Yesterday, the Finance Committee, says Pierre Poilievre, passed a motion 6-4 requiring Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to testify under oath for 3 hours today. And I believe that starts at 3 p.m. I usually wait until after. Sometimes I'll watch the live tweets and I'll see kind of what the big stories developing are, but usually I try and watch after and then I watch it in double time. So it cuts out a lot of the nonsense and a lot of the time wasting and the procedural stuff. You can just fast forward all through that. Here is the CBC managing your expectations. I'm not going to dig deep into this article. This is just CBC posting this morning, which is July 30th. That Trudeau's appearance before the committee may not shed new light on wee controversy, experts say. Don't you love these experts recently? I used to love reading like National Geographic because they'd have experts talking about like honeybees or the universe, right? The storms on Jupiter and the comets that landed there or that impacted Jupiter for that 2-week period in 1996, I think it was. I love those articles. Those were experts. These people are, I don't know where they find them, but they're willing to say anything for anybody. It's crazy. Like, oh, experts say tall people get coronavirus more. Okay, sure, maybe. How's the weather up there, tall guy? I'm tall, so I'm over 6 feet. So like, not that I've heard that. I don't think I look tall, but I guess other people think I look tall. Anyway, regardless, Justin Trudeau's ability to answer a question, and we've seen countless examples all through his leadership of the Liberal Party and through his prime ministership, but he won't answer a question, right? He'll get a question and he'll listen to his earpiece for a minute, or he'll pull his earpiece out and he'll stand up and he'll speak about something completely off topic from the question, and then at the end, say something politicky and sit down, and then people clap like he answered the question, and everybody in the House behaves as if maybe he kind of answered a question. Andrew Scheer started calling him out for not answering questions, but if we see more of this behavior through this committee, I wonder how much he can get away with regards to that. Now, there are problems with doing this type of questioning in this type of format. This isn't a criminal investigation. This is a finance committee. It has no power. What's it going to do? I don't even think it can levy fines. Can it levy fines? I mean, all that's going to happen is possibly they'll open up a criminal investigation. And what Trudeau's been advised to do is not to incriminate himself, right? Like, this is basic 101. Don't say anything that's going to get you in more trouble than you're already in, right? Also, he's under oath, so whatever. So are we going to see lots of, oh, well, I'm not going to answer that, on advice of counsel or something to that effect? Or are we going to see honest answers? Or are we going to see campaign-style rhetoric through this question period? I have no idea. I don't know what to expect. And I'm not a lawyer and I don't know the law, but I would imagine that this is probably, well, here's the problem with something like this. Here's the issue, okay? Here's Brian Lilly, and he says, boxes marked partnership and executive office are taken away from we offices as spotted by Joe Warmington and Henry Veronica. Maybe these are personal belongings, maybe they're sensitive files. The point is, it doesn't look good. More questions need answers. And Joe Warmington, partnership and exec files were taken out of the we headquarters Wednesday. Not sure where they were headed. Wonder if any of whatever info is in these boxes will come up today when Justin Trudeau is on the stand. So there's no freeze, there's no investigation, so there's no order in place to preserve any files or documentation or anything, right? The investigation of the Finance Committee doesn't have the ability to freeze these files or really anything with regards to protecting the evidence as it currently stands. And so when we're in a situation where we're questioning the Prime Minister about what he knew and when, it's more about public opinion. And I guess it's all that can be done through these parliamentary procedure stuff that we currently have. We don't have Parliament sitting. We've got a Finance Committee sitting. And we don't have more than 2 days in August left in the parliamentary calendar before things are supposed to resume in September, if they resume at all, right? If the NDP agrees with the Liberals and says, well, we still need to maintain the House as is, and we'll only have like a couple of short sittings, and we'll have the COVID people or the COVID committee continue to sit instead of the full House. Well, that's no better and doesn't give us any opportunity to hold these people accountable. And if the RCMP opens an investigation, it's Brenda Lucki who's overseeing it. Brenda Lucki, who took a week to understand that racism was rampant in the RCMP, from starting out with, no, there's no racism in here. We do a lot of work to maintain or to make sure that there's no racism in the RCMP, and that there isn't racism, to, oh yeah, rampant racism like making women do 6-foot jumps, and most women aren't 6 feet tall. That kind of racism. That's all she could come up with. But there's a big issue with tipping your evidence or highlighting the hot spots, and then all of a sudden, man, the documents just go missing. I don't know what happened to them. Mr. Officer, who's now doing an investigation after we had a very public witness deposition, right? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this is the best way or if this is the absolute stupidest way. It looks like possibly the absolute stupidest way to do this. And it looks like we don't have any other choice to bring light to this, right? Like, it's the worst possible way to do this, but there isn't another choice, because I haven't heard anything about any criminal investigation. There's been no announcement, despite lots and lots of evidence and lots of public pressure, right? Here's another aspect to this. Chairs of committees are supposed to be neutral. Poilievre calls out Liberal chair of Finance Committee for being a bodyguard for Trudeau and Liberal witnesses. And yeah, there was a lot of questionable. These two committed contempt. They were in contempt of their orders. They were answered the question. The question was yes or no. Did you hire a lawyer to investigate somebody's children and their schools, et cetera, and or did you or anybody hired on your behalf, like, so your lawyers, your representatives, anybody, do this? And they would not answer the question, and it just looked worse and worse for them. And in fact, the Twitter thread they referenced proved that they did hire a lawyer. And who knows if it was them, the We brothers, personally using their personal funds, or if we, the entity We, used the We's money. Looks like We Charity spent hundreds of thousands on U.S. political consultants, according to the Globe and Mail. Here's Brian Lilly's piece, and it says, committee learns We hired investigators to spy on children of journalists. So they couldn't answer the question. We're in contempt, and the chair did nothing. And the answer to the question was yes. The answer to the question was emphatically yes. Yes, we did do that. Yep. Thanks for your donation. Okay, here's the Toronto Sun article. And Brian Lilly's been doing great work, so give him some clicks. It was one of the most bizarre and commented on moments of the Kielburger brothers' 4 hours worth of testimony on Tuesday. A question about whether the brothers or We Charity hired a private investigator to snoop on members of the media and their young children. For most organizations, the answer would be a simple one. No. For Craig Kielburger, his response was far from answering the question, yet it told told people so much. Have you or anyone acting on your behalf, including a law firm, ever hired private investigators who may have looked into media personalities like Mr. Jesse Brown or reporter Jaron Kerr? Conservative MP Pierre Poilievre asked. Sir, if I may say, with all due respect, you are reaching to the bottom of the barrel if Jesse Brown is now who you're quoting, Craig Kielburger replied. And this is dissenting into... Ultimately, they said that I think this question is... there's a public record, so I think this is an inappropriate question. Well, it doesn't matter what you think, man. Answer the question. Anyway, it's never a wise move to tell a member of parliament asking you questions at a committee that they are scraping the bottom of the barrel, especially when it turns out the answer is yes, you have hired a private investigator to snoop on the media. After several back and forth moments where Pierre Poilievre tried to get Kielburger to give a simple answer, the charity founder told the committee to look at Twitter. Sir, we will happily submit to you the Twitter exchange between the lawyer who is involved in the matter and Jesse Brown's Twitter. It answers the question decisively, Kielburger said. And answer it did, but not in a positive light for the charity. In response, Brown not only includes in his tweet a report which showed investigators looking into the names of his children and where they attended school, but also an email from the lawyer hired by Peter Downward. In a response to Brown, Downward called having investigators look up the name and school of his young children, quote, a typical example of due diligence. The Kielburger brothers refused to say anything more on the matter to the committee. Wild, right? If you're in the political arena, they're going to investigate the schools that your children go to? If you're reporting on the political arena, they're going to investigate the schools that your children go to. Let that sink in. All right, staying with we and moving to, Minister Morneau. This is the House of Commons staffer, and he says, drip, drip, drip. Under federal income tax law, registered charities can't use their resources to support political parties or candidates. And that's a quote from the article, and I'll read that. But this is Minister Morneau. I wanted to show you this, though. Here's the Government of Canada resources for charities about political activities. A charity is still prohibited from directly or indirectly supporting or opposing political parties or candidates for public office. PPDDAs are public policy dialogue and development activities. A PPDDA, public policy dialogue and development activities. That's a whole lot in your mouth. Okay, here is this is a CRA document here. I'll show you. Government of Canada, Public Policy Dialogue and Development Activities by Charities. And I wanted to show you this. This is prohibited supporting or opposing a political party or a political candidate. The Income Tax Act prohibits a charity from devoting any part of its resources to the direct or indirect support of or opposition to any political party or candidate for public office. Any activity that supports or opposes a political party or candidate is not a PPDDA, and a charity cannot carry on such activities to any degree. Okay, so here's the news article, CBC reporting. This is from July 29th. Again, today's the 30th. We employees say they were told to attend 2018 holiday party in Bill Morneau's riding. So being told to attend a holiday party would be in support of a specific candidate, a specific party, right? And that would not be classified as a PPDDA, would it not? Okay, here's the article. The guests posing for photos at the holiday party Bill Morneau held in his Toronto downtown riding in December 2018 were all smiles, but not everyone was having a good time. Several former We employees of We Charity have told CBC News they felt pressure to attend the event and claimed they were not told by their supervisors that the party would be hosted by the federal finance minister and MP for Toronto Centre. None of us wanted to go, said a former employee, whom CBC News has agreed to refer to as Robin. Robin is one of three former We Charity employees who allege co-founder Mark Kielburger's chief of staff, Jackie Pilon, sorry if I got that wrong, repeatedly asked them to attend the event on December 13th, 2018, even after they told her they'd rather not. Robin claims Pilon asked them to go after work to, quote, fill the room, and that Pilon described the celebration as though it were a We event or a Craig Kielburger event, referring to Kielburger's brother and We co-founder Craig Kielburger. She kind of kept dancing around any details. It was framed as though this was an event centered around Craig, and Bill Morneau would just happen to be there. When Robin and 9 other colleagues arrived at the party, they were surprised to see anti-pipeline protesters outside the downtown Toronto venue known as the 519. an event space run by the city of Toronto. This was very much about Bill Morneau. This was very much for the Liberals, Robin said. Another former employee who attended the Morneau party says, we paid for staff's Uber rides to the venue and offered to let them come in late the next day. We Charity said in an email to CBC that it is completely false to state that Pylon in any way suggested the party was a we event or misled staff by not disclosing the event was hosted by Morneau. The invitation staff would have received clearly states that it was a neighborhood event put on by Morneau. And here's the holiday party, and it's a holiday party. So that picture, man, getting lots of miles out of that picture. Let me just adjust the cufflinks. Everybody adjusts their cufflinks, right? You know, you just adjust them. They're there. While you're sipping champagne, right? Anyway, Bill Morneau also hosts an annual barbecue and annual holiday party in his riding, which is open to the public. Attendance for these free events is not tracked, Herbert said in a statement. The We organization has not received any invitation to any partisan or political events in Toronto Centre. Under federal income tax law, registered charities can't use their resources to support political parties or charities, but it's unclear whether the holiday party would qualify as a political function without knowing whether the party donations were collected at the event, for example. In a statement to CBC News, We called the allegations from former employees a significant mischaracterization of events. Based on our records and to the best of our knowledge, We Charity and Me to We Social Enterprise have never circulated an invitation to staff to attend a political event such as a political rally or political fundraiser, the organizer said. I scroll down. Oh, there was a part there that said that they were allowed to come in late. Hold on, let me find it. I didn't highlight it apparently. Oh, I evidently said that. Sorry, I thought that was scrolled down later. Anyway, yeah, they were allowed to come in late and had Uber rides paid for. So that's interesting, but I don't necessarily think that rises to the level of illegal, right? So an open holiday party is not necessarily supporting a political party. Now, the fact that We was giving them Uber rides and letting them come in late, that's the part that is iffy. And if, in addition, and I don't know if We engaged in this. I know SNC engaged in this. SNC asked employees to give the maximum amount of donation to the Liberal Party, and then they'd pay them that amount in a bonus, right? So that's not, you can't do that. I don't know if We did that, but I know that SNC did that. So very interesting. Continuing on Morneau, Ethics Commissioner confirms he will be expanding the scope of his examination of Minister Morneau's possible ethics violations. Here's another one. Ethics Committee. Now this is a motion calling for the ministers to disclose whether they knew about relationships between We and the Trudeaus and the Morneaus, and for ministers to disclose whether their family or relatives have connections to We. That was voted down. That was nope. We don't have to do that. That was 6-4, and the NDP voted with the Liberals for that. Very interesting, right? Here's an interesting use of taxpayer dollars, and this is not an isolated case. We pay a lot of money for Instagram shots from professional photographers who follow around ministers. And there are a lot of people who are upset about it. Here's Jasmine Moulton saying over $5,000 of your tax money paid for a photographer to follow Catherine McKenna around the UN so she could post the photos on Instagram. And this is taxpayer.com. Wild, right? Like $5,000? Don't you wish you had people just following you around to document your amazing work with all of the amazing people you do and then post it on Instagram? Oh, look, I'm eating salad. It's really good. Snap. Okay, the Ontario government is due to announce plans for reopening schools in September on Thursday. That's today, 1 o'clock. So there's lots going on this afternoon. As I said, Trudeau is at the Finance Committee for 3 o'clock, I think. And there's school announcements at 1 o'clock with Premier Ford and his ministers, the health minister, Miss Elliott, and Lisi, the education minister. And here is Sickkids. This is a Sickkids PDF, recommendations for school reopening, Sickkids. And it says the benefits of NMMs. NMMs are non-medical masks, okay? The benefits of NMM masks and medical masks is that they may reduce transmission from individuals who are shedding the virus, as they may help to prevent respiratory droplets from the wearer from coughing or for coming into contact with others. While non-medical mask use has been recommended and or mandated for use by public health authorities in Ontario in indoor spaces, It is important to note that their use is recommended primarily for source control, i.e. preventing infectious particles from spreading from the wearer, not as PPE. In children and youth, there are limited data on the effectiveness on non-medical mask use for source control, but there remains a theoretical benefit, especially for older students and youth. However, in order to be effective, NMMs would need to be worn correctly, which for many otherwise healthy children and youth would be difficult for a full school day. Even more significant barriers exist for children and youth with underlying medical, developmental, and mental health conditions. So they're not recommending medical or non-medical masks or face masks for under high school at this point in time in this document. And they're saying that maybe for high school, basically. So that's interesting to note. And what's further interesting to note is that here is the EFTO, and here's Alex Pearson, and she's tweeting. She said, so they're going against medical experts when it comes to what's best for elementary kids. And here's the Fahir Nasser, and she's a blue check mark, and she said, Elementary Teachers Federation, EFTO, or ETFO, calls for masks for kids regardless of age. Sickkids Hospital reports out today. Sorry, I'll start that over. Somebody phoning me, so whatever. Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario calls for masks for kids regardless of age. Sickkids Hospital report out today recommends masks for high school students. So, and it doesn't talk about the conflicting. It doesn't say. There's so much minutia that this loses, right? Like, recommends masks for high school students. I don't know that it necessarily recommends masks for high school students. I don't think that it says that. Here's the last story for this morning. Toronto makes masks mandatory in common spaces inside condo and apartment buildings, passes other bylaws ahead of stage 3. The mandatory masking has no sunset. Any emergency laws in Ontario require there to be a state of emergency, and the state of emergency has an automatic sunset clause in place. This is very important because those emergency powers shouldn't extend past the emergency. Now, Ford has done an end run around that through Bill 195, extending emergency powers, certain emergency powers, and repealing the emergency. However, I have not heard A, who votes on this, B, who votes on mandatory masks under Section 22 health regulations. Bylaws are a different thing. That requires all of the city councillors to be on board, etc. The Section 22 order just has the public health person, and this is Wellington Dufferin area for Guelph. So the public health person has carte blanche to recommend masks, and the city, Guelph, is just saying, yeah, that's the recommendation, so we're mandating masks. Despite the fact that there's no criteria for repealing the masks, there's no sunset on this, there's no accountability on this. If nobody says anything, they can continue to have masks mandated indefinitely. There are no criteria to repeal this. We have one person in hospital in less than 30 cases. There are other places in Ontario, one place, and I can't remember the city, it starts with an A, Global News tweeted about it a few hours ago. But their city council voted for no mandatory masks because they didn't have enough cases. They had 27 cases. They had 22 cases. Guelph has 27 cases. One in the hospital. That's it. I don't understand how people can mandate a mask, how there can be mandated orders that should be reserved for emergency situations only, that are continuing to be indefinitely mandated with absolutely zero oversight. I'm sure there is a law that talks about this, but I don't know what it is. Again, I'm not a lawyer guy, and I'm not sure where to start looking. So if you have a suggestion for me to look at this from a legal standpoint, I know Rocco Galati is doing this, but I'd love to help. I don't know how I can help. I really don't. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating because it feels like we had, at certain points, legal checks and balances for things like this, for overreach like this. And now we don't. Now, if you say that a mask is not helpful, especially a non-medical mask, then you are some kind of deplorable, right? It is unbelievable we have polarized and made political health. How are people okay with Facebook and Twitter and YouTube giving medical advice and silencing medical doctors who are telling you hydroxychloroquine is healthy, wearing a mask is not? We're hearing the exact opposite. And we're hearing the only pathway to safety is a vaccine. A vaccine? There are countless examples. In India, in the United Kingdom, modern examples of vaccines that were supposed to help that did more harm than good. And we're supposed to believe that hydroxychloroquine is more dangerous than an untested Chinese vaccine? Give me a GD break. Seriously. This is unbelievable, unprecedented, and we should, back to the main point, have legal checks and balances on these draconian laws, these draconian mandated masks, these bylaws, these health orders. There needs to be accountability, and the people accountable need to be held accountable. And we need to have very clear steps or criteria for repealing a mandatory mask. Even for, I think probably Ford should come out with some guidelines provincially and say, if X is true, if there are less than 5 patients in hospital, mandatory mask orders should be repealed, or something to that effect. If there are more than 5 patients in hospital, maybe we should talk about it. If all the patients are from the same elderly care home, maybe it's a different conversation, right? Like, we need to have some common sense in our government, and there is none. There is only corruption and people blindly following what Twitter and Google and YouTube and Facebook tell them to. And it's unbelievable that we're letting them get away with it. Unbelievable. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com, check out CanadaReport.co, check out SpeakingMoistly.co, and have a wonderful, wonderful